So what could be going on? Let me start with your theories, and then I will present. Yeah.
Their diets are very narrow and the same all the time. So they don't really correlate what they eat with it. It's just kind of an informational thing. They don't realize what nutrients they actually need, so they just know what tastes good or what they're used to eating.
So it could be, for example, that I'm just rephrasing for everyone because you speak in this very nice and soft tone. It could be that they don't have the information that nutrition affects your strength. In fact, you proposed one very specific theory for that, which is if you've never experimented, because you've always eaten the same thing, then you might not know what would happen outside of your normal range. So that would be one reason why you don't have the information.
And then when someone or maybe the government suggests a different diet or replacing, what people are normally used to eating, they're not really willing to take that advice, and so that can, they'll just continue eating, just normally eating. Like if their diet is based mainly on grains and rice, and if someone in the government says, well, there's a shortage of that, maybe you should supplement more vegetables for it, then they aren't very willing to switch.
So, and one reason why your information might be limited is that even when you get a source of information from outside, for example, the government tells you you should eat your vegetable, you should eat these kind of cereals rather than those kinds of cereals, you should replace some rice with pulses or some rice with cereals, people are reluctant to do it. And why would we think that people are reluctant to follow this information from the government? Yeah.
For two reasons. One, it might not be a variety of food might not be available in that region, and also a lot of those things are more expensive. So the cheaper things are very carb-heavy things, which is quite filling. So you might not choose to go for vegetables, which is not.
Right. So there are two possible reasons that you said. The first one is a chicken and egg problem. Because if no one eats spinach in a place, then spinach is a great thing. But if no one eats it, it's just not available, and therefore you cannot try it out. What was the second one? Excuse me.
The second one is that the cheaper food is generally more carb heavy, and so it's quite filling. You might choose to buy that over vegetables, and that's more expensive and not as filling.
Right, and the second one could be a matter of cost. Yep.
Could it be that the benefit of nutrient intakes are over the long term? So if you're taking a small iron tablet, the next day miraculously you're not going to perform better, but over the long term you might see smaller improvements?
Right, so it could be that it is difficult to learn. So for example, one thing that could happen is that someone from outside, very well-meaning, say you should really eat, say, iron-fortified flour instead of your regular flour, and you try, and then after 1 week, you don't feel like Popeye. Like it's not that things have dramatically changed. And in fact, if I put you on a treadmill and I ask you to perform an exercise, I will know that you are 10% stronger. But this is not something, if you are 10% stronger the next month, are you going to be able to really see the difference or not? So it might not be immediately clear. And if that is the case, then you might have a situation where people arrive from outside and give you this message and say, you should really change your diet in this way. And you make maybe an effort to follow them for some time, spend a little bit more money or a little bit more effort into going into purchasing your food. And then that happens and you're not any stronger and you're like, whatever did they tell me? It's like, this is no better because your expectations were set high enough to encourage you to do the switch. And the problem is, for this, there would be a tendency to slightly oversell how much better you're going to feel, which then is going to translate into a disappointment. So one example of that is something that people found in a deworming program in Kenya, which we're going to discuss in a moment. So it's a childhood deworming program. Deworming is in some sense a nutrition program because the worms are competing with the kid for the food. So by removing the worms, you are increasing the amount of food that stays with the kid. I'm sorry, this is not a great conversation to have right after lunch, but that's kind of the biology of it in 2 words. So when you give deworming, and we are going to see that in a minute, that does make the kid, that reduces anemia, that reduces the incidence of being sick, that reduces, therefore, absence from school. So there was an NGO that was trying to promote deworming in schools, in some randomly selected schools in the late 90s, early 2000. And they went and they explained all of this with a lot of energy and said, your kid is going to feel much better and is going to go to school more and all of that. And parents had to sign a form to agree to get the kid dewormed. So it's not money, it's not a huge amount of effort, but it's still a little bit of effort. And also you have to want it. And people were interested, the researchers were interested to know whether parents were more likely to sign the form if they knew more people around them who got a chance to get the deworming. So because it was a randomized experiment, some people, which was done at the level of the school, I'm going to show you a map in a moment, some people got treated in some schools and some people didn't get treated immediately. So people who are in a treated school may have had friends who were in neighboring schools, which may have been treated or controlled. So what the researchers did is to look at whether you were more likely to take up the deworming once you got the option if you had more friends who got the option the year before. And their prior going into this was that the more friends you have who got into the deworming, the more you are likely to do it yourself because you will see the benefits. And what they found was exactly the opposite, which is the more friends you had who had been a chance to get dewormed the year before, the less you were likely to take up the deworming once you got a chance. And what are the possible interpretations for that somewhat weird results, Yazak?
One possible interpretation is like depending on how you get worms, the fact that your friends are being treated for it, you might be less likely to get it. Like in the case of malaria, if everybody in the community is using the bed net, you probably don't have to.
Exactly. So that's the first possible interpretation, which is worms are in fact highly contagious. So if most of your friends are treated, then they probably don't have worms anymore. You might feel, well, why do I don't need to go to the trouble of getting dewormed because they did. Therefore, there are fewer worms around. And there is some side effect. Why would you take the trouble? You know?
Maybe people also, since people get dewormed and then their problems decrease, people don't think it's as much of an issue because it's not as prominent. So as opposed to like the externality just decreasing, they just don't realize that it's such a big threat anymore.
Exactly. So that could be another thing, which is people learn that, so people say, oh, these other kids got dewormed, but they are not much healthier than me. And the fact is you don't realize that you are healthy because they are healthy and they made you healthier. So you're now comparing the benefits of you as a treated child, as a controlled child, you're not yet treated, to the other kids who got treated, and the difference is not that large. It's not that large precisely because of the contagion effect that Zach mentioned, but so you're trying to learn the effect, and so it's not that large. And even if you don't understand that it's due to the externality, so you don't do this calculation saying it's not worthwhile, you just see it and think, what did they sell me? This thing doesn't really make any difference. And so you decide not to do it. Yeah.
I was going to say that even if you don't really have any change in your health status, maybe the change that the other people have is not so great as to convince you to get it. Like, you see that the medication, quote unquote, doesn't work.
Right, and that also could be the case, could be that even without this mechanism, which is a very nice one, but even without this mechanism, you could see the other children and say, well, first thing they got sick when they ate the deworming pill, so the side effect is immediate. Like it gives people, as the worm die, this is getting worse and worse, but as the worm die, this like can make you pretty unwell like for an hour or two, as your body gets rid of them. And then you get better. but the side effect is salient and immediate, and the benefits are a little bit more less apparent. And this is, of course, is reinforced by the point that Noam made, which is that the externalities make it difficult to compare treatment and control. So for all of these reasons, so this is one example of why it's very difficult for people to learn about relatively subtle health nutrition mechanism. And so what is happening with deworming, that's maybe made a little bit harder by the fact that, by the externalities, which A, gives Zach's like strategic reasons not to do it, second, give Noam's difficulty of learning explanation. But that is, but that could also be at play with, you know, iron pill or supplementing your flour with iron, where you're like, really not that much is happening. So these are, you know, possible reasons why you wouldn't do what the government tells, or well-meaning NGO tells you to do. You don't have the information. Learning is difficult because the effects are subtle. This implies, you know, spending more money, and maybe those foods are not even available for you in a convenient way. What else could be going on potentially?
If the wages are set wages, then even if you eat more and are stronger, you're still going to get the same amount of money, so there's no point being more productive.
Right, so it could be another possible explanation is you could realize that it's going to make you a bit more productive, but you might wonder what's the use of me being more productive if in fact the wages are not piece wage but day wage, and you are a little bit more productive. But you need to go and convince your employer that now I'm a little bit more productive, so you need to pay me more on a daily basis. But your employer is not behind your back checking what it is you're eating every day. And so your consumption is unobserved from the point of view of the employer. So there is a moral hazard issue where you could go and say, I'm telling you I've eaten so much, I'm very strong, you can monitor, you can see. Unless your employer can really be monitoring your output in a very close way, which might not always be possible, then they might say, whatever. I'm just assuming that you are the average person. And there is one study that shows that, that compares people, that shows that employers recognize that taller people are more productive. Taller people are usually have been better fed maybe when they grow up, and they are stronger. Taller, you know, maybe stronger, more muscles, people are more productive, they pay them more. But how much you've eaten and how well you've eaten previously does not affect wages. And that is because that is observed from the point of view of the employer, and if they can't see the output either, then it's my, you know, he said, she said, it's like, how do I know you're actually more productive? Yeah, you can. So of course the solution to that would be for the employer to feed people iron supplement on the job, and why they're not doing that, I don't know, but that would be an interesting thing to consider. Because then they could know, and they could say, yeah, I can pay you a bit more as long as you're eating your iron supplement.